Thank you, everybody, for attending. This is Laura Inserto. It's a beautiful afternoon, and here we are on Zoom still. We were just saying how much we miss seeing one another, but hopefully over the next couple of months we will be back in person. So before we get started, if everybody would take a minute, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Thank you. So first up is our new business. And we have a guest speaker with us today. And I'm not sure if Herb, have you signed on yet?
I have. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Herb.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. So nice of you to join us today. Herb and a few others started the Fairfield Senior Advocates and has been working very, very diligently on so many efforts that relate to seniors and initiatives and housing and government connections and so many great things that he's going to fill us in on today. So I don't want to take your thunder, Herb, so if you wouldn't mind, I'll let you head us off.
Okay, great. And let me just say hi to everyone. Great to chat with you. I have been trying to listen into the meetings whenever I can, and when I haven't, I've been listening to the recordings. So congratulations to everything that you're trying to accomplish, and look forward to working with you over time. And thanks also to the nice things that you said about FSA at some of your prior meetings. Much appreciated. So I thought, did everyone get a copy of what I sent Laura, to you and Julie? Do you know?
I think I screwed up, Herb. I did not send them, but I will send them now so everyone will have them following this meeting. Okay. Or I'll send them so everyone will have them now while you go through it. Okay.
I'll be mindful of that as I walk through it. So what I sent was sort of and I'm going to try as much as possible to send monthly updates to you in terms of what we're doing and intend to do. This time I sent the monthly update. I also sent our focus areas, a list of our focus areas with a little bit of detail of our focus areas for 2021. And maybe it's best if I just walk through that, because I think by walking through that, I'll wind up cross-referencing with the update at the same time. So I'll just do that. I think that's probably the most expeditious way to do it. I know you've got a lot to accomplish today. So the first area is housing, and I'll talk about four areas. So first, housing. Second, legislative activity. Third, major research projects. And fourth, just communications and outreach. So first, housing. I always say this is the greatest challenge that we have at FSA, because we really have, as I know all of you know, a real dearth of senior-friendly housing options available to us in Fairfield. And this is really at all income levels, all asset levels. So we're obviously certainly concerned about affordable housing. We call it capital A affordable, what's officially defined as affordable. But we also have so many people that would like to stay in Fairfield and struggle to find solutions that work for them. It's hard to downsize in Fairfield. It's not often just a matter of cost. It's a matter of just finding something that's suitable. And we just think that's so important for us to be addressing over time. Now, one way in which we've begun to try to address that is through accessory dwelling units. And that may be a partial solution for some folks. And we were happy that the Planning and Zoning Commission did recently approve our proposal that we worked together on with or submitted with the Affordable Housing Committee and with Fair Plan, the sustainability group. And So we're excited about that, and in fact, we're going to be putting together kind of a community-wide Zoom presentation on accessory dwelling units. Everything you really need to know going forward if you'd like to, about it, and also if you'd like to pursue one. So that'll be put together. It'll be well publicized, and hopefully it'll take place maybe latter part of April or May timeframe. That's the hope, I think. Beyond the accessory dwelling units, there are a lot more of other things that we need to work with the Planning and Zoning Commission on, and also work with, in terms of building consensus, from a town standpoint, in terms of what we really need to aspire toward in terms of finding, we call it middle housing, lower density, maybe, multifamily housing, but also things like pocket neighborhoods, where you have maybe clusters of homes and just other solutions that might work as an alternative to a single family housing. As well as I think, over time, we want to be active in terms of looking to help, seniors that want to downsize in place. There's obviously a cost associated with doing that and effort in doing that, and hopefully we can work to try to find, funding and solutions that work to make that available. So housing really is a big area for us, and we've got a lot to do, and it's not just a matter of FSA doing things, it's building bridges with other groups and getting people to really roll up their sleeves and work on this. It's the type of thing that requires ongoing effort and focus to make change happen. So,
Herb, this is Laura.
Number one.
I was just curious if you could just give the commission a quick overview of Fairfield Senior Advocates and who all is involved in that, and
Sure.
how they could join and get your monthly newsletters. Could you
Sure.
update us on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. So I think everyone has some knowledge of us because we've been at meetings, but let me just very, very quickly. We formed the group about 5 years or so ago. Completely grassroots. It's all volunteers. So we're not at 501c3 level. We certainly want to get there, but we're not there because we just focus really on just making things happen on the ground and helping other people make things happen on the ground to the extent that we can. But it's a relatively small core group of really less than 10 people that are really active on a continuing basis. And those folks are generally, quite active. And we're really very, very anxious to try to expand that group of volunteers. And, people can work at whatever level or areas they want to work in to whatever extent they can. But that's one of our biggest needs is we can really do more if we had more bandwidth. So that's one thing I want to be trying to reach out to people. And you don't have to be officially a senior, and there's no definition of senior as far as we're concerned. We like to work with people who we like to say, aspire to become seniors one day, as well as people who are seniors. And regardless of age, you can be any age to be an advocate for seniors. So it's completely nonpartisan. We welcome the involvement of everyone, and our mission is basically to try to keep seniors in Fairfield to the extent that we can. And the idea is that this is good for our families, but it's also good for our finances. It's very important from a financial standpoint to keep seniors here, and the cost of really losing a senior household is substantial. I mean, the net impact of losing a senior household is something approaching $10,000 a year by our estimates, and that's an annuity type loss. So it's really important to keep seniors for many reasons, and just one of those is financial. But so we're going to be talking about some of the areas that we focus in, and one is housing, and but we also work not just at the town level but also at the state level, and be talking a little bit about that next up. And at the state, we're involved in testifying and trying to build relationships with other organizations, identify legislation that's important to try to protect vulnerable seniors, important from a tax standpoint, important from a housing perspective. So this is actually a busy time of the year for us because the session's in place in Hartford. And everything's Zoom right now, but in past years we've been up to Hartford to testify in person, and we'll obviously be continuing to do that. And reaching out to other communities and trying to find groups similar to ours is important because the more we can build bridges with other organizations, the more the greater the potential impact that we can actually have. So, anything more in terms of overall before I go into a little bit more detail about the state legislative actions that we're doing?
Personally, I thought that was great. Thank you, Herb. But maybe somebody else has a question with regards to structure.
And what we do, so Laura, we have a mail list, and I think everybody is on our mail list. But we'll make sure. I'll get the list of email addresses from you, and we'll make sure everyone's on that list. But we send out periodic emails, Fairfield Senior Advocates emails, and you have to watch because it can get lost in spam or lost in promotional type mail. So if you can try to look for it would be great. But we send out periodic blast emails, more so probably this time of year than we would say during the summer or holidays for sure. But we send them out, and we also started actually just before COVID in terms of having monthly meetings at both the Bigelow Center and at the libraries. And before that, they were on a selected basis, depending upon the topic as it came up, either one of those two locations. But we started in the beginning of last year, pre-COVID, in terms of trying to have monthly meetings. And they really worked well in January of last year. And then, of course, like everything else, we got things like changed for us. And since that time, we've been having meetings via Zoom. And we've got an array of meetings that are happening now. One next week that I'm going to talk about in a minute, on March 30th, Tuesday afternoon at 4. And then we'll have one on every Tuesday afternoon at 4 during April. And then we'll figure out what the game plan is going forward. But that's our way of engaging the community in the meantime. So please don't hesitate to interrupt me at any time with any questions, everyone. Absolutely great if you do. So I'll keep moving, and you just stop me. So state legislature. Our agenda for now is to really, this year, is to really protect key current programs, and they're programs that provide state tax exemptions on retirement income. And one of those has been proposed by the governor for delayed phase-in. It's a bill that it's actually the governor's budget bill, and it actually came before the Finance Committee the other day, and we submitted a statement indicating our preference that nothing happened at this point in time. In terms of making that submission, we also cited something else, and that is that the bill as it's currently constructed has some deficiencies that we asked the committee to give consideration to. And quite honestly, we think this is just as important as whether there's a delay in the rollout of the program that the governor has proposed doing from a budget savings standpoint. So the governor has proposed a 2-year delay in the rollout. It's like one of these programs. It's a program that actually exempts taxes for moderate income seniors up to $1,000 for a joint return or $75,000 per individual. It's rolled out in terms of over a 7-year period, and we're actually now in, I guess, the 3rd year, and the governor has proposed to delay the further rollout for 2 more years to save budget dollars. So we've asked that he not do that, but we've also asked that these other factors be reflected. Just as one example, IRA income is not currently considered in terms of pension and annuity income. It was probably a mistake that it wasn't, but it's clearly a glaring omission, and we've asked that that be considered. I don't know that anything will happen with that this year. I think realistically, it's probably not I'm not sure what the final outcome would be. I think it will either be the governor's budget will be approved and there will be a delay, or maybe it will be beaten back. But I doubt these other adjustments will take place. But they're there. They need to be made, and we've gone on record in terms of citing the need to address those as well. And I can provide any more detail if you'd like on that, on those fixes that we think are needed. But that's the overview in terms of what's going on with respect to that. The other area that was really at risk that Julie's been active, and she wrote a letter to the editor on, which we're most appreciative of, was the Medicare Savings Program. And there was a proposed asset cap that would have been proposed on that, and that's now off the table, thank goodness. And we had written to the Human Services Committee when they were addressing this at the legislature. Position, we wrote a pretty strong letter, and we were prepared to take it to whatever level, including the Finance Committee, Appropriations Committee, whatever. But that wasn't necessary because that's now off the table. The other key area actually affects land use and zoning regulations, and this is pretty controversial. You've probably seen Tony Wong in terms of holding a number of Zoom meetings, basically the gist of being, leave zoning alone at the local level. There's a group in Connecticut called Desegregate Connecticut. It's a very, very thoughtful group. It's led by the Sarah Bronin, who's the spouse of the mayor of Hartford, but also extremely capable attorney and architect, professor in her own right. And they put together a pretty thoughtful bill that was the subject of a marathon session last week at the Planning and Development Committee, on which Tony sits, but Kristen is actually the chair of that committee. And there are actually some good things from our perspective in this legislation, and I think something will probably ultimately come of this. I'm not sure it'll be this year, but it's something that we're learning more about and trying to get more engaged in. We didn't take an official position, but a lot of us see certainly advantages to this, although you'll see a lot of people in town who are writing letters in opposition. There was tremendous outpouring of taxpayer sentiment, pro and con this legislation. So you'll see a lot more about this. It's Senate Bill 1024. But beyond that, we're working on fostering our relationship with the State Aging Committee, and that's the subject of our Zoom meeting next Tuesday. So Jen Leeper is on the committee, and the chair of that committee, Quentin Phipps, he goes by Q, and Jen, and we hope at least State Rep Ann Hughes from Easton will be joining us to participate. And we want to talk about their priorities, and we also want to talk about 5 or 6 bills in particular that we're going to identify, and actually have already identified through Jen for the committee to discuss, as well as interest and priorities on the part of our viewers. So it should be a pretty interesting session. And actually, the committee reached out to us through Jen to do this, and we were happy to jump on it. So it's next Tuesday at 4, and I did send Julie and Laura a flyer on this that I'm sure they'd be happy to distribute to everyone. And we're going to be working to try to publicize it to the extent that we can. And then beyond that, we in terms of trying to build the relationships with others, we've built a good relationship with Marie Allen at SWACA that Julie works incredibly close with, and Marie is a huge fan of Julie, and I think vice versa. But she's been great, and the relationship we've built with her over the last few years, and with Anna Duragazi, the assistant director at AARP, have been really good ones, and we want to work on trying to build more relationships going forward with other organizations. So that's a big part of what we're doing. Now, one other area that I'll just touch on fairly briefly in terms of projects, maybe a little bit more about one than the other two, but we did a study of comparative communities, kind of best practices by comparative communities in terms of trying to keep their seniors, with the help of a couple of Sacred Heart grad students. It was their capstone project. It was actually done in the fall of this year, and I've shared that report with Julie. And there are a few things that they suggested that I think they thought would be really impactful. It turns out that Julie is really pretty familiar, as we kind of suspected, with these options, and so I'm not sure how much new ground we're breaking, but they did their best with a project under difficult circumstances, for sure, being the fact that they were undermanned and underwomaned on this, because normally they'd have 5 people in the project, and there were just 2 of them that were doing this. But they made some recommendations, and one area that didn't get as much emphasis as we had hoped was this whole area of housing options, senior-friendly housing options. So that's something that we're considering as a possible phase 2 project sometime possibly in 2021. But I think first we need to do some more thinking and discussion with our community partners in terms of how best to set that up. So that's on the agenda for possible addressing this year. Also, we did a project several years ago with Fairfield U that really helped us in terms of getting a better handle on the senior population, and actually the population as a whole in Fairfield, by merging the voter database and the assessor database. And we want to do that again with updated data now that the assessment, the reevaluation process is ending, and also to hopefully build in some more data on sales. And that's really helpful in terms of zeroing in terms of where areas of vulnerability are for seniors. And we've actually showed some examples of that in some of our meetings that we've done, and we'll continue to do that in future meetings as well. So that's on the agenda as soon as the assessor finishes the reval work, and we can get him to send us the updated database. We're going to merge a new voter database with the assessor database. And then finally, one that I'm really getting excited about, and I know that a number of you are, and that is the possibility of pursuing an age-friendly initiative for Fairfield, getting Fairfield designated, becoming a member of the network of age-friendly communities. And I've done some work on that. There's actually some work done that was done by the Sacred Heart students, and I told Julie and Laura that I had a conversation last week with the Massachusetts AARP director of age-friendly community building, who has all kinds of national relationships and relationships within the Commonwealth, I should say, of Massachusetts. And so it was really exciting having that conversation with him. It's a very active process in Massachusetts. There are 70 communities that have a designation there. There are about 7, I think, in Connecticut, but one of which is Greenwich, and I think Greenwich is another. And in addition to a couple that I have my eye on in Massachusetts that we might potentially use as role models, if you will. But this isn't something that happens in a month or 2. I mean, this is sort of a 5-year process, going from building consensus to getting official town support, an application, a series of surveys that we would be done in the community, and then an action plan. And then actually the next step is sort of getting ratification of the action plan by AARP. And so it's time consuming. It's not as I like to say, it's not a tea drinking form of community engagement. It requires some work and rolling up one's sleeves, but I think would have enormous potential for our town in terms of not just even seniors, but even building intergenerational regard and support going forward. And another aspect of this is dementia friendly. So a number of the communities that have become age friendly have also undertaken the process of becoming dementia friendly as well. So I think a pretty exciting area that I hope we can talk about more. Then finally, we're just doing some of the basic stuff. I talked about the Zoom meetings, and we'd love to resume the in-person meetings soon at Bigelow Center and also at the libraries. We really need to try to build up our of active people as well as people on our mail lists, people that engage and work with us regularly, but also people that come to our meetings, and do more work in terms of our website and our social media vehicles and our general process for communicating as well. So that's kind of an overview of who we are and what we're up to.
Wow. This is Laura. For a volunteer, you're putting an awful lot of full-time work into this. It's amazing. It's amazing the breadth that you cover. My question to you, Herb, is Fairfield the only town that has a senior advocate program like this?
Well, it's the only one that we knew of in the state, and we had tried to reach out. We certainly try over time to reach out to other towns and through various people we meet with. So whether it's AARP or Marie Allen at SWACA or other organizations that we have connections with, and they'll point us to groups like At Home in Darien or At Home in New Canaan. I'm not sure what the official name for the New Canaan group is, but they have some similarities, but it's not really quite the same thing. But we were interviewed recently by a group called the Connecticut. They're calling it the Age Well Collaborative, and they're a group with some significant funding by the Tufts Health Association, I think, and they're interviewing senior groups throughout the state to identify best practices in terms of supporting seniors, and they expressed interest in. We were the first people that they interviewed at the recommendation of Anna at AARP, and we agreed to stay in touch with them, and they're actually going to be sending us data, a kind of a database on senior best practices as well. So we're excited about that, and I think that something is going to emerge from that. And what we're hoping is that maybe we can, even if we can play a role in helping to foment organizations like ours elsewhere, we'll be more than happy to try to do that. So I think things are looking up, Laura.
Oh, I would say more than looking up. Thank you, Herb. Does anybody else have any other questions for Herb?
Yes, I do. Yeah. It's Suzanne Testani. Herb, thank you so much, Madam Chairman. Wonderful presentation, Herb. Fantastic. I actually worked for the town of Greenwich for 32 years. I worked for the Commission on Aging. And in addition to what Laura's question was a minute ago, I'm sure there might be other organizations like you had just stated. They just might be called different names, but certainly being the voice of seniors, whatever the age group might be for that town. But getting back to your planning and zoning and your housing issue, I know you mentioned all those issues concerning the lawmakers, including, Senator Tony Wong and Kristen McCarthy-Vahey, as well as Jennifer Leeper, and of course Laura Devlin can be added to that list as well, who's also one of our legislators here in Fairfield. Have you, or would it be within your purview to be able to do community education town type of hearings? Because I know you mentioned Senator Wong had stated not to touch zoning in Fairfield, but knowledge is power, and when you educate the community, then they're more knowledgeable on what you're trying to accomplish. Is that something that you've thought about at all, Irv, or that senior advocates would be involved in?
Yeah, Suzanne, we haven't been ready to do it yet, and that's one reason we haven't tackled it. It's something I think we would love to do. And,
down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this legislation, so Senate Bill 1024, for example, being one of them, is very complicated. There are a lot of different nuances to it. I'm just now, I have to tell you myself, just getting my arms around it and what it all means. So we've got, when we're working on it right now, several of us, Gordon McKenzie, our state director, and Bob Ellwanger, who has really been great in stepping up and working on this, and we've spent a lot of time watching videos and watching hearings and so forth. But we're just now, getting ourselves comfortable in terms of understanding the different facets. One other thing that we really want to do is to reach out to groups, some of these other groups. Now, I know I've had a conversation with a representative from Desegregate Connecticut, but we want to meet with the other groups that have different perspectives in terms of being advocates for seniors and advocates for towns, to become as knowledgeable as we can. But when we're ready, we would love to do that. And I think the more folks we can get engaged.
To invite the actual taxpayers who might have their hackles up with the NIMBY issue, not in my backyard type of thing, to educate them. And some of these new ideas that you have, like these community clusters or what you were describing earlier.
Absolutely. I mean, and we'll be spending time in April in our Zoom sessions on some of these housing issues. It won't be so much on. I mean, and we may get into Senate Bill 1024, but I think we're still in the process of getting our arms around a lot of this legislation, and I would be surprised personally if any blockbuster passes in its current form this year. To some extent, it may be laying the groundwork for future years, but I think this is. I'm glad you brought this up because I think this is definitely one to stay. That there are going to be changes, and I think the key is to find them, is to identify what they are and make them work for the individual towns.
Right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Herb, hi. It's George Markley.
Hi, George.
And I had a quick. How are you doing?
Good to talk with you. Good to talk with you. Good to hear your voice.
And always good to talk with you. Just a quick question regarding age-friendly communities. Could you give us, a few examples of what characterizes those communities that have formally adopted that program or been approved for that program? What it involves? What types of things make them age-friendly?
Absolutely, George. So there are 8 domains that normally fall within the confines of the action plan. So in other words, there's sort of a sub-plan that is attributed to each of the areas. So one, for instance, is housing for sure. Another is transportation. Another is the friendliness of outdoor spaces and buildings, and then there's one on social participation and then communication and so forth. So there are 8 domains that are standard to this action plan, and I've seen several of these action plans, and they are quite detailed. And we can certainly, to the extent the commission's interested, we can certainly pass along some examples of these plans, but they're quite detailed, and obviously takes some time to do it. But it's really a game plan for how to make progress over a multi-year period in each of these areas. And now you can adapt these to an individual town's needs. So I saw one plan that took the 8 and sort of added one and then grouped several of the other ones together. And so to the extent it's appropriate, you can certainly put more emphasis on one area than you might another area, or just maybe double up an emphasis on one particular area. So, for instance, for us, I think finding these housing solutions at all income levels is really pretty important for us. Maybe more important than a town that's needs is largely just defined. I shouldn't say just defined, but its need is primarily to seek solutions for people who need, government-defined affordable housing. And there are probably other areas that we would want to adjust the emphasis or maybe add to our list as well. So that's the gist of the action plan. And again, the sequence is sort of build consensus among community leaders, get the seal of support from the Board of Selectmen, Selectwoman, send the application, to go through a survey process so the whole community is engaged, and then that flows into the construction of the action plan.
Great. It seems very comprehensive in terms of the scope of the matters that are covered.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Excellent. Anybody else have another question for Herb?
Hi, this is Brenda Steele. I just wanted to say hello and thank you for this incredible presentation in such a short time. It's really amazing all that you have already done and are currently working on your group. So I really look forward to meeting you and working together, and just wanted to say thank you.
Absolutely, Brenda. Been following your accomplishments long distance. You made a lot of progress in a short period of time, and Julie's delighted that you're there. We all are, and great to meet you. Great to meet you in person.
Thank you.
Sort of in person.
Right. So soon enough, hopefully soon enough. But yeah, thank you so much. And all of these are really just amazing things that you've already done. And we thank you, and thank you
Absolutely.
for filling us in on so much.
Oh, for sure, anytime.
All right. Well, Herb, as always, I am just amazed at the amount of time and research and caring you put into everything you do. And it's just such a pleasure to have you part of our group, because you are. And we thank you so much.
Well, listen, thank you, everybody. And Laura, and I have to say, this has really been engaging for those of us who have been actively involved. And we'd love to get more people involved to whatever level works for them. But it's a wonderful activity in terms of keeping people engaged and challenged, in their retirement or semi-retirement years or even pre-retirement years. So it's been a lot of fun and really exhilarating and challenging for all of us. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Herb. And I know we are going to circle back with you on the age-friendly community as well. So stay tuned. We're not finished with you yet.
All right, that sounds great. I'll unless you kick me off, I'll just stay mute and listen to the rest of the meeting.
Oh, please do. Feel free. Thank you.
Thanks, Herb.
Thanks.
Okay, everyone. Thank
you
for
everybody.
your time. I know we are certainly engaged now for 45 minutes, which has been great, and we probably could have kept Herb on for another hour, but we're going to move forward now. In our last month's meeting, we had spoken about each commissioner coming to the next meeting with any ideas of projects that they would like to see focused on. So you did have a few days in seeing this agenda, so I wanted to ask who would like to go first with their idea as to...
Oh, Laura, it's Suzanne. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did I speak over someone?
No, go ahead. That's good.
Yes, I was able to give it some more thought since our last meeting, Laura, and I thought it would be a good area for the Services Commission to look into, and that is the rising issue, of course, with the advent of COVID, of opioid and substance abuse. And in going on the website, I noticed that the Human Services Department does have what we call an access line, but I'm wondering if we should be looking into this issue more, because it's just, and it knows no age group, obviously hits a cross-section of ages, socioeconomic levels. It's just out there, and it's not getting any better. I've got a wonderful idea for a speaker. He is my son. He's a licensed addiction recovery specialist with Seabrook, and he's more than willing to be one of our speakers.
Yes, thank you. You did submit that by email yesterday, and I appreciated it very much. And I did speak with Julie about whether or not that area actually falls under human services. I recognize that they may make mention of it on the access line, but it seems to me like it might fall kind of closely with the health department as well, so that's where I'm not sure. But
okay.
Julie and I will definitely circle back with you on that, Suzanne, so that's great.
Okay,
it's such
great,
an
Laura.
important
Thank you so much. Thank you, Julie.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep, thank you.
Anybody else?
This is Loretta. Hi. I have a few ideas. I'm not sure if we talked about this during the last meeting or not. I'm not clear in my memory. But Fairfield Cares or the Racial Equity Task Force, as a couple of other coalitions in town, that I think would be good for us to be aware of and identify areas of alignment where we can work together, perhaps. Then I also, the other one I wasn't sure about in terms of overlap, and that would be Parks and Rec and youth services. And is there, in terms of our human services, social services aspects, a way of seeing services that are available for lower income students, youth in our community? Would that fall under our purview, Julie?
We're 18 and over
for
okay. Services, but we do. Social services does definitely help families with campership and back to school and holiday things. But I suspect you're talking on a different level about youth services.
Well, it was actually what you're describing. So I was really thinking, as I talked about Parks and Rec, it was more. I was thinking more about recreational activities. So if that was an area where there would be overlap, and maybe that needs to be further explored. So I need to flesh it out more before I guess I bring it before everybody.
We do partner with Parks and Rec for holiday camps and summer camps and other things. So I think with Suzanne and with Fairfield Cares, the Racial Equity Task Force and Youth Services, these are all great opportunities to have somebody come and present to the commission on each subject. So, yeah, okay.
And then the final thing I just wanted to talk about was mental health services in the community and identifying them in terms of the overlap with disability services and perhaps having a speaker talk about that. Okay, just throwing out topics.
Yeah, and this is Laura Inserto, and to that end too, touching a little bit on what Herb touched upon with dementia and Alzheimer's, such a huge area in the senior population that I think it's always great to get an update, maybe perhaps from the Connecticut chapter for the Alzheimer's Association. That could be a good group to have come speak with us.
Well, they would be excellent.
What'd you say? You cut out.
The Alzheimer's Association, Laura?
Yeah,
Fairfield County chapter. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have another area of interest?
This is George.
Brenda.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's Linda. It's Linda DiLorenzo. The way we had talked the last time, we talked about what speakers would be good. Of course, Herb, we mentioned you. We think you're tops. The other one, you had mentioned yourself, Herb, and, of course, I'm a big proponent, having been the past CEO of SWACA. I think Marie Allen would be another person that would be a good speaker to fill us in on some of the kinds of issues they're having and what's going on there.
That's a great idea.
This list is great. It's growing. I love it.
Yeah, I've heard her speak. We hosted her. She was amazing.
She is amazing.
Yes. Yeah, Marie has spoken to this commission during my tenure, and it's always good to get her updates. Absolutely. And George, you had something.
I was just going to add, not in terms of a separate topic, but in correlation with the topics that have been mentioned, particularly mental health, opioid addiction, all those issues, that we might reach out to some of the people in the public schools, particularly the high schools, guidance counselors and or social workers or school psychologists, to have them come speak with us about the issues that they see as being most prevalent and where we might be able to offer some support or assistance. I think that's our ultimate goal, is to see what we might be able to do in terms of activism. So
that's actually a great idea, George, because the stress levels of students, especially in the high school years, are so heightened at this current time because the competition to get into colleges is so great. And one of the things we started instituting were yoga and Tai Chi in the high school level, just to try to get the kids to release some of their stress. That's a wonderful idea.
That is a great idea. And this is Laura. And, it's interesting, but I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday whose son is recently getting ready to graduate from college. And these current students, 2021 grads, as well as 2020, are having difficulty finding work. As a senior population, and many of us being, working in the public sector and maybe even private sector, maybe could just be mentors, right? Springboards for how to look for a job. These kids have no clue how to look for a job. It's scary. And they're all needing them. So maybe somehow mentoring college graduates even.
Hi, it's Julie. Laura, remember next month we have your friend Joe Carbone coming. I bet we could pick his brain about that too.
Yep, exactly. I was going to bring that up. That was my initiative that I presented last month, was helping seniors find engaging employment. And we did reach out to Joe Carbone, who is the CEO of the workplace, and he did accept our invitation to come and speak with us. Did he confirm it's going to be April or May, Julie?
April.
It is April. Okay, great.
Yep.
April 22nd. Excellent.
Yep.
Okay, and I think, Brenda, you had something you wanted to say.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just thinking, although we're not post-COVID by any means, but perhaps something, under that general title that might include, the mental health and, the opioids. And I know that we don't have a whole lot of time, but, something even with employment, something with that kind of headline. Again, we're not really post-COVID at all, but as we go into the next couple of months, we can be thinking about something that, getting people, or reaching out to people who are struggling somehow. We know lots of people, all everyone is struggling in some way or another. I don't have a name, but I'm just thinking of that topic and how we each in our own, area can help our own, individuals. And but I don't have a name, so sorry. I'm just thinking.
No, that's good. This is Laura, and I'm going to represent Barbara unless she joined us. But when we were talking about having a retreat last year before COVID set in, one of the areas that Barbara mentioned was with COVID coming upon everybody in such a quick fashion, how was the response? And could the Human Services Commission in some way been more of a help in terms of supporting the pandemic, the all of a sudden, catastrophe that hit everybody? Is that something that we want to be thinking about as a commission, ways that we can help during catastrophes? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there because
I think that's a wonderful idea, like partnering up with Operation Hope, collecting food, things like that. That all went on during the thick of COVID.
Yeah, it's Julie. I think that's a great idea to kind of review what happened and what things we could have done better or could do in the future. We do have ongoing emergency planning that we update, almost quarterly. But that would be great to, share with you. It'd probably be easier when we're important what those plans are, in terms of when there's an emergency, how we respond, so that and then also what the commission could guide to make it go better. So that's a lovely idea.
It was Barbara, so I'm giving her full credit. Okay, does anybody else have anything to add? This is wonderful. Everybody, I'm just so thrilled. Okay, so we're going to move on to our agenda. And let me go back to it because I've been walking around here. We're going to ask Carolyn for a Board of Health.
I'm on the phone.
Under old business.
No.
Okay. Well, I talked to Sands, and you've probably seen it in the papers or on Fairfield Patch that the virus is kind of creeping back up, and he's a little bit concerned about it, but he said that some things are going up and some things are going down, and that at this point in time we're having about 100 a week getting this virus, and he said it seems like it's going up and down. He said the best thing we can all do is just keep doing what we've been doing and not slack off. And that's really about it, because everything has been about COVID.
Well, this is Suzanne. Yale Walk-In over on Stilson Road just told me the same thing a couple of days ago, that the cases are up.
And he said that he had hoped that whatever vaccine they may work out for younger people, that they can get it and get it done before school starts. But that's kind of like not necessarily a pipe dream, but a wish.
Before school starts in the fall, Carolyn?
Yeah. Yes.
Hopefully.
So it sounds to me like he's thinking the spread might be coming from the young people.
Well, he didn't really say exactly, but I think what they're trying to wait for now is to see how it goes with these high school students back in school.
Yeah, and once the college students leave the area in May, it might even go down.
Right, but they've just come back in the last week or so.
Right.
If you go down Reef Road, it's kind of difficult this past couple of weeks.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that,
so that's
Carolyn.
really all I have.
Anybody have questions for Carolyn?
Thank you, Carolyn.
Right, and we'll move on to Loretta, who's going to talk with us about people with disabilities.
Okay. Hello again, everybody. So the Committee for People with Disabilities, let's see. We have we are still awaiting word from the town leadership to on our charge. So that's still on hold. But in terms of activities, the committee met, and we have considered a selection of different activities that we can do while we are, so we can be productive while we are waiting. We are currently working on developing a resource directory that can be posted on the website, on the town's website, to just be a place where community members can access information. So that's what we're working on now, and members are we're right now working on organization and categories and how it would be best to sort the information before we fill it with content. So that's about it, where we are right now.
Which is great.
Anything, anybody? Anybody
Loretta,
on the committee?
George?
Yes. Hello, George.
At some point, it may be too early, obviously, but at some point, hopefully the committee will not only talk about the creation of resources or listing of resources, but how to get the word out to the general population that that list exists.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, the problem is the information is there, but people don't know it, or they don't know how to access it. So the question is how to blanket
George,
the pen.
I completely agree. Communication, developing a communication plan is also on our list of things to tackle.
Right.
Great.
And I think it's a little bit of an awkward time right now because we feel kind of like we're in limbo, not quite sure if we're staying under Human Services Commission or if we're going to be an independent body. So finding that sweet spot of tasks that we can take on in the space that we're in, I think is important. But certainly I think that I definitely, one of the things that I think is important is, in terms of a resource directory, is that it is on the website directly, not as a PDF downloadable, because that way it gets picked up by Google searches. And then overall, I think we definitely need to create a communication plan to promote the committee/commission and resources in the town, and how we can be used, how people can engage with us.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and Loretta, you've done great work on this, and I think if we can do anything for Loretta too, is to continue to think about community members that would want to join that commission should it become a commission, or even as it is a committee. Correct, Loretta?
Right. Well, right now it's a committee, so we've put out the word, and I think once we get through the next step with the selectwomen, the selectmen, they determine who actually goes on the commission once it gets to that stage. But once we get to a certain point, we could also go public, we are public, but we could do better at promotion and advertising that we're looking to, that the commission is looking for people to be involved. It's hard right now because we have been putting out outreach and people are ready to get involved and and there's nothing to do. So I feel like we're a little bit stuck there. I don't want people to lose interest because there's no action for them to get involved with.
Understand.
But certainly, but I don't mean to dismiss. Yes, Laura, we are definitely looking for people who are interested in being involved.
Good. Excellent, Loretta. Thank you for all you've done. And I personally will look at your link that you sent again today. I'm sorry I was away last week, but I will do that.
Loretta, did you get my stuff? It's Linda.
No, I did not.
I mailed you some stuff, and I also put stuff on, I put resources on the list.
Okay, so the resources on the spreadsheet I will look for. I had
Kennedy Center and and Wolfgang and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. And snail mail is dreadfully slow, at least coming to my house.
Real slow, because I mailed you stuff I think on Monday.
Yeah, not yet.
Oh yeah, it's only Thursday. It's Fairfield. Give it
another week or two.
Terrible.
Oh. Okay, thank you, Loretta. So now we'll ask Julie for her department update.
Great. I think if Brenda's okay with it, have her kick off talking about the COVID call center and what she's working on. You all right with that, Brenda?
Sure.
Perfect.
So it's the call center has been a little bit. It has been slower. This age group has managed to, find ways to register for the vaccine, which is great news. And there are a lot of new places that are offering the vaccine now, as you might have heard: Walgreens, Stop and Shop, CVS. Yale New Haven, Hartford Health, and we're hoping that once Johnson & Johnson vaccine becomes more accessible, which SANS thinks will be hopefully within the next week or two, that it'll open up even more slots. As of now, April 5th is the next age group, and it's still going very well. And we're still helping people with finding locations, and the CERT volunteers are absolutely amazing. I can't say enough about that volunteer group. We're so lucky to have them, and we certainly couldn't pull this off without them. And they're always available and willing to help out whenever we need them. So they've really been amazing. So it's going really, really well.
What Brenda didn't mention, because she will never brag, is that she is working very closely with the health department to populate the at-home list of seniors who aren't able to come for the vaccine. And that has been invaluable for our at-home, at-risk population, whether seniors or otherwise. But that is something that is populated by the call center primarily, because people call in and they enter them into the system and then coordinate with the drivers and the nurse to get them out. So it is an amazing job.
Yes, that has been really wonderful. And Fairfield is actually one of very few towns in the state that have, already started that process. There are a lot of towns that have not even begun organizing it. And not only have we begun administering to our homebound, we have a list of pretty much, most of the individuals that we think we have. We have worked with the state as well in getting some names on the list as well. So we're very, very fortunate. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
That's great. Yes. Are we going to do a write-up in our newsletter on that? What a great job they've done. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Yeah,
sure.
I'm thrilled that Brenda's here, because there's no way we would have had the capacity to do all the stuff that she is doing. It's incredible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Aside from the COVID call center, on the senior center side, something that Brenda and I are working on is the reopening plan, and that's going to be slow going. We are not opening until the vaccine clinic is done in the gym, so we don't have that timing. But it probably at least through June, we will not be opening the inside of the building. But we're stepping up our outside program. I mean, we've been doing outside things anyways, the drive-through things, but we're working on trying to step that up. But the reopening guidelines are, the sector rules are good, kind of vague, and we work incredibly closely with the senior center directors from our SWACA area, and also with the state group of 169 towns. So that's a primary focus for us. So Brenda is balancing saving lives with the vaccine COVID call line, and also working with us on the reopening. And that's going to be interesting and exciting. Transportation for doctor's appointments and grocery shopping is resuming in April for the non-senior housing sites. We'll still use GPT for that, but we've been waiting for the drivers to be vaccinated. We cannot mandate that riders have the vaccine, and we cannot mandate that any senior coming in has to be we can't mandate vaccines. So we wanted to be sure the drivers were set. So that resumes soon. Mm-hmm. And also in the senior center side, we have the job posted for an activities coordinator, and we have gotten a lot of responses for that ad already, for somebody to work closely with Brenda to schedule and manage the activities in the center. So keep an eye out for that. Whomever gets the job will certainly bring or drag to a meeting so that they can meet you and answer your questions. But we're excited about that. That's taken a while to get that posted and to get and to get that going. So I'm thrilled. And on the social services side, there's a couple of things we're working on. One in particular is we are part of the town's suicide postvention group, and that's a group of outside the schools, because the schools have a postvention plan for if there's an unfortunate death by suicide in the school system that's either student or parent of. There's not a similar response yet. There's kind of a similar response, but not as robust for people outside the school system. So that's somebody from the schools is on that, Fairfield Cares, us, Kristen McCarthy-Vahey, Police and Fire, and LifeBridge is joining that group. So two of us have a training upstate tomorrow to learn how to be trainers for the QPR, which is question, persuade, and refer. It's exciting. It's a little daunting because it's so important and so serious and challenging, but I'm excited that we have staff who's willing and able to jump in and learn with me. And our behavioral health response team, we're hoping to meet sometime this spring. That's the group of our core who we call in the event of a crisis and emergency in the mental health field. So if there's either an act of God or some kind of huge traumatic event, God forbid a shooting, that we have a team that we can go to who are mental health professionals to support the residents of Fairfield in the hopefully unlikely event of an emergency. So that's made up of us, LifeBridge, Child Guidance, Family and Children's, Police, Fire, Positive Directions, a few other agencies. But, we've been so focused on COVID that we haven't really stayed on top of that. Nobody has. It's just everybody is very busy or working remotely. So that'll be rejuvenated. I think that might be everything. Any questions?
I think we've covered a lot in this meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie. That is excellent.
Sure.
I mean, we don't realize it, but there's so much still going on that, if we were in and out of the senior center regularly, we'd probably know more. But this is an amazing update, and I want to publicly thank Sheila, because I know you've taken a lot of notes this meeting, and I appreciate that very much. Any new business, any other business that anyone wants to put forward? Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for being a part of this very vibrant meeting. And Herb, again, I know you're still on. Thank you so much. And our next meeting is April 22nd at 4 p.m., and Julie will send us that phone number to call into, and we're just looking forward, hopefully, to June when we can all see and be with one another again, I hope.
Yep, thanks,
so Laura. Get a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I'll make a motion. Suzanne?
Second.
Who seconded?
Carolyn.
Carolyn, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like our meeting is officially adjourned. And again, thank you all. Stay safe and stay well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.